Welcome in, guys, to Rover Sports, the podcast, and we are live. And it's Halloween night here, and we kind of want to get in the podcast before a big night of Halloween. I'm trying to think of when my favorite time for Halloween was as we begin this podcast to try to talk about something other than sports to try to seem cool like the big podcasts do. But I would say that Halloween was the best probably in middle school. Would you? What do you?
Yeah, yeah, like that, like fifth to sixth grade, like kind of you're like in that innocence mode. I would say definitely that fifth, sixth grade area, because then you start getting to like seventh, eighth grade, and you become too cool for it, and
Correct.
then you're just too old, and
then
then
it's a
you
very
think about it
awkward
now.
stage where you're smiling like a sly little smile with the adults. As then you have some, like, one of your friends is kind of a prick and he's like flirting with the girl that's kind of like coming with you on the trick or treat. And it's just weird, like some people are taking it serious and, some of the adults are kind of smiling and you're kind of joking with them saying, we're not
It
too
sounds
old.
like you had a bad experience.
What'd you say?
It sounds like you had like a life-changing experience trick or treating at some point.
With what?
I don't know. It just sounds like you're describing like a scarring moment in your life.
What, when my friend like was flirting with a girl that I was really interested in?
Sounds that way.
That's happened more than once, man. Those are the type of that's what happens in high school, Your friends will turn on you for girls.
In a second.
In a damn second. But it gets awkward at those kind of stages. And then in high school, usually Halloween falls on like a weeknight. And I'll tell you, actually a very good Halloween experience. Like the best costume I ever had was, you remember Reno 911, that movie, the show?
Of course. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't know? So the Phillies in 2008, they won the World Series, and the parade was that day. And, my school had like a Halloween parade, and I was Sheriff Jim Dangle with the short shorts, the mustache, like everything.
Huh.
Pretty damn good costume, huh?
So, yeah, I wish I had thought of something like that, Spencer.
Well,
My best costume ever.
What was your best costume then? Looks like he got scared. Looks like he got scared and he cut out. But I actually got to pay for more minutes on here. The podcast continues. So let's see. Let's do it. David's back.
Spencer.
Sorry about that. Our pod is still continuing. It's because my Skype minutes, I have to refilter the payments.
Oh, okay. So anyway, Spencer, my best costume probably be in the third or the fourth grade. I went as a robot. Had the made a full box. It was a full made, costume. So that's kind of where you go with something like that,
Right.
And then,
The
had the makeup on and all that good stuff,
I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, it's a good time, and I feel like with trick-or-treating, like I feel like it was even more vogue when we were kids actually than they compared to kids now with technology or just, parents getting paranoid about the safety of going to neighbors' homes and stuff. I don't know about you, where you stand on that.
I'm not a paranoid person, but I can understand it.
You can understand it. Anyway, let's talk about the big stories in sports. We're going to talk, we'll do football tomorrow. Let's talk about Washington Nationals baseball. They end up winning. It's pretty crazy that the Capitals, I think the Capitals won recently, and now the Nationals. Really, D.C. is a sports town all of a sudden. I guess the Nationals kind of broke that curse, or the Capitals broke that curse. What did you think about the game last night?
Spencer, let's not, you're not giving the other party in D.C. the due that they deserve. The Washington Mystics won the WNBA championship less than a month ago.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh. I was watching
this is
every
becoming
game.
title. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, you've got to acknowledge it as title town. You know, I mean, you got to call it for what it
Absolutely.
is.
It
I
is
mean,
title town.
right now, I mean, they're winning a lot of championships. Them in Boston, so you know, they're doing well. I mean, Nationals had a historic run. You know, down and out so many different times. They came back. I think the term "team of destiny" gets thrown around too much in sports, but they truly were. I mean, how many times can you be in an elimination game? And as they pointed out last night during the game, it started from the first game, which was probably their hardest hole to come out of. You go back, you're going up against the best reliever in baseball, and Josh Hader, you know, and you score 3 runs on in the 8th on him. You know,
Hater.
a guy
Josh
guy
Hader.
makes an error. Yeah, a guy makes an error in the outfield in that wild card game to allow the extra run to score. A guy never made an error all year as a rookie. You know. So it felt like so many things always just came together, you know, to make a team of destiny. It was a beautiful thing to watch. I'm not a Nationals fan, but I acknowledge it for what it is. They played their hearts out, and they deserve to
But
win.
you don't hate them. You don't hate the Washington
No,
Nationals.
I'm a Yankees fan, but you know I don't root for anyone but the Yankees.
I like that. I like that. So this is a podcast, guys. I'm sorry about, a little bit of, some people are checking in here to the podcast and they're saying there's no video. But this is, my friend Noah Cahill's on here, G-Men 409, and Patrick is on here as well. But basically, what I wanted to point out here, David, is that this is the year of destiny, or the year of sports kind of underdogs, because it's really the good guys winning. I think that the St. Louis Blues had an incredible story. The play Gloria, and they were down and out during the season. They end up winning. How about Kyle Guy and Virginia? I mean, that was the 1-1 seed where it was like the team of destiny. Purdue had them. They have that incredible play where, that guy's name I can't pronounce hits that little floater off of that missed free throw. I mean, Virginia was the team of destiny as well.
Yeah, I mean, in any championship run, I mean, they were the best team in the nation all year, pretty much. And in any championship run, most of the time, you're going to have some moment, where. But I think like the Nationals, true team of destiny. I do agree with the Blues, But yeah, but Virginia was one of those teams. They were the best team in the nation all year. They had a couple good breaks. I'll give it to them there. But
yeah, so basketball is really the only sport where the team that's supposed to win is going to win. But you could actually argue football. The Giants, the Pittsburgh Steelers, we used to have wild card teams frequently win Super Bowls, go through those runs. But in the last couple of years, the team that has had home field in the divisional round has usually held serve in the playoffs. And now with baseball, it seems like a free-for-all. With baseball, you thought the Dodgers would clearly walk to the World Series. How would you describe the parity in these major sports right now?
Well, first of all, the thing about the Dodgers that people, kind of, got to remember taking this context. In a short series, I think the Dodgers, if it was a 7-game series, win the series. But, in a short series, you get wiped out real quick. But also it becomes a free for all. But baseball is the ultimate free for all sport where you could put the Kansas City Royals in the playoffs and they would have a chance of winning the World Series, if that makes sense. It's all about getting hot at the right time. In baseball, anyone can win on any night, and it truly ends up being that way. Would that be a stretch to Royals comparison? Of course, I'm not saying that, but it truly is that ultimate parity sport.
It is
where
the pitchers can pitch well.
Some bats get hot.
You even see good lineups get really cold.
You need so much to go correctly,
You do. And but let's talk about A.J. Hinch yesterday. I mean, I'm from the school of thought where if someone's doing well, you got to keep them in. And I thought Greinke Greinke was unhittable last night, and he's such an unconventional guy to have to play in a Game 7 because you're already nervous being a Nationals hitter in a Game 7, and the guy's throwing these knuckleballs. He's like Tim Wakefield, kind of. And it just, I don't understand why managers are so ready to get rid of hot hands with these analytics in baseball and these pitching matchups.
Well, I think last night proved exactly why you're ready to get rid of the hot hands, because the thing in baseball that has become very, very evident over time, but more and more prevalent because people are watching it, if this makes sense, is that third time through the order, your batting averages go up about 100 to 110 points throughout the major leagues, right?
Right.
That's the numbers. That's what they are. So guys will be, the first two times will be pitching like under 200, around 200, and then third time through the order it goes up to about high twos into the threes a lot.
Right.
For even good pitchers. So, as I texted you last night, I think what hurt the Astros last night was the fact that Greinke was so damn good because of the hot hands there. It is hard to take a guy out, but the move the whole time was after the sixth inning, they should have taken Greinke out and go to Cole. And then some of the things I'm reading now is that Cole, once they got down, refused to go into the game, which I don't necessarily blame him, And it is what it is, but it's very hard to take a guy out. I'm not sitting here saying that was an obvious move, but it's probably what should have happened. And with hindsight, being the Monday morning quarterback, it's easy for me to say, yeah, they should have taken him out after six and put Cole in. It's easy now.
Yeah, not messed with the Will Harris and the relievers there. But Scherzer battled, and really, I think that Corbin guy he really flew through the Nationals lineup, and it was a terrific story. Nationals winning the World Series, and it just shows you a team that can get in, can get hot, and can win it. Even the Rockies a couple of years ago, and it made for a fun baseball playoff.
I 100% agree. It was beautiful. I thought there were a lot of really good things about it. This way, all in all, I thought it was great.
No, it was great to see Davey Martinez, just the stories and having those veteran leaderships. Let's talk about last night in the NBA. A couple of big games happened. I mean, did you catch wind of the Houston Rockets Wizards game? I mean, did you see that? That was pretty crazy to look back on. All those points being scored yesterday.
I watched it. I actually was watching some of the breakdowns on Synergy this morning. The NBA, I have access to their film in the NBA, so I was able to watch on breakdown. And let me tell you, as bad as the box score looked for no defense, on breakdowns later, there was no defense being played. The pace was frenetic, and what you saw there last night was, Russell Westbrook was, at least for the Rockets, I mean, I know he had a triple-double. Westbrook was lost a lot of the night defensively. I don't even care if he had a few steals. He's slow in rotations right now. He doesn't understand what little defensive concepts are going on. And then you get on the other side, the Washington Wizards they have guys who are capable of scoring the ball, but once again, defensively, when you push pace on them, the pictures are too fast for the defenders to react. And it was a beautiful game. I mean, Harden had his 59, Beal had his 47 or whatever. It was a great game entertainment-wise. I'll say that. A lot of shot making, not much defense, and I would attribute it to early season teams just not being comfortable in their rotations.
And teams just rolling out the ball. And you know what the NBA is turning into? It's turning into a couple of years ago in the NFL where the quarterbacks would just be putting up these monster numbers, and it's hard to sift through the BS. Like, when you think about this rookie class, literally P.J. Washington is the 12th pick. He can go out and drop 30 on a random night. You could have, when you look through the rookie class, I mean, you could go down the list of guys that were selected this year. I know Washington. I know Tyler Hero can drop 30 points. It's hard, Darius Garland can get 18 points. It's hard to tell who's really an elite basketball player and who's just racking up numbers kind of based in this offensive league that we're in. It's kind of hard to tell who's really a great player and what guys are just benefiting from regular season and laziness. Like Mo Wagner can go out and score 25 points on a regular night in the NBA now.
Term of laziness is off base. I think it's the thing you're seeing in the NBA. It's not lazy by any means, because what they're doing is they push the pace at such a pace right now that there's hardly anything lazy about what they're doing. It's just what these coaches are not getting on the other end is that if you're pushing the pace on one end, it's hard to consistently, get back and play for nothing.
And defend.
Pelicans.
Dave,
It's not laziness. Do you hear?
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Keep going.
Okay, Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, I'd say I don't think it's laziness. What you see is these coaches are adapting to the fact that they don't have the players that can play in the half court, and score consistently. So what's the antidote to that? You play just stupid fast. So, and that's where these games become track meets, and you'll see a lot of bad, meaningless buckets. But is what it is. And then that's where you see like teams like the Magic, they go about it in a different way. The Raptors, they go about it in a different way. And then in the playoffs, the game's bogged down a little bit. But I wouldn't call it laziness. I'll just call it overall different style play. I wouldn't say every play is not lazy, though. I would agree with that.
When you're the Wizards or the Hornets and you don't have as much talent, I actually think that could be a strategy to kind of mask the talent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
That's exactly what I'm trying to – it's like, look at the Pelicans and how fast they play. Gentry before the season, you can find a quote somewhere and says, we're not going to be a good half-court team. So that's why we're going to push the ball so fast, because that's the way it masks, these guys aren't able to, set the screens and get the offense going consistently in the half court. If they played that way, they'd probably lose by 20 points each night,
So I have a question for you. So you've been around college basketball. We're talking here with Davey Horns. You've been an assistant coach at high-level basketball programs. And so say like a team like Virginia in college basketball, say someone wants to run a track meet at Virginia, or a team wants to run a track meet against Toronto. Is it just not going to work at all, where that team will just be taking terrible shots and then, because eventually when a track meet team meets a great defensive team, eventually they might just get stifled and probably the better team will win out. I mean, how do those games kind of go?
Okay, so let's go back all the way to April, okay, to the Final Four, okay? So let's just go back there, all right? Auburn plays Virginia. It is the contrast of all styles, right?
Right.
How does Virginia keep the game somewhat slow? You have to have elite ball handling on the floor so you do not get sped up. It's not necessarily as much about the defense as it is your offense. And you have, just go back to that, you have your Ty Jeromes or your, Kyle Guys or DeAndre Hunters, where the press isn't going to affect you. You can get the ball over, and the speed of the game doesn't speed up because your players are not getting sped up, if that makes sense, And then eventually, I think it's easier to impose your will as the slower team, if that's it, than the faster team, because playing slow can be contagious. It can be a very, very hard thing to break. Playing fast is easy. It's really easy to play fast, but when you're playing slow, it's hard to go from playing slow on one end to the tempo and just bring it all the way up on the other. So you have good ball handling. You don't get forced into bad turnovers. You can keep the game pretty slow. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, there's also things you're doing on defense where you're not, jumping up passing lanes, going for a steal. You play discipline. You make the team, lack of a better word, earn their shot. You keep everything in front of you. It's going to make for a slower type of a game.
I actually think it's very interesting. It kind of goes both ways, but I've seen teams that don't have a lot of talent play slow, and I've seen them win like a lot of ugly games by kind of playing slow. But it's a huge risk when you're like a Wisconsin in the tournament. Like, remember when Marshall Henderson and Ole Miss beat Wisconsin? I just think that when you play slow, it's a huge risk because you let an inferior team hang around. And I just think it's a risk in these tournaments.
Hey, I mean, that's why, everyone said Tony Bennett because he always get caught up in one game, and he almost did a couple times. I would agree. I think there's a happy medium. But the thing is, you could say, I think the thing about teams that play slow, what you really got to go back and look at a lot of times, that they still have people that can really handle the ball really, really, really well. I mean, most of the time teams that play, you can't play slow if you can't handle the ball because then eventually you get trapped and they speed you up and you're just going to throw the ball all over the gym. I mean, if you're playing slow without good ball handlers, usually your team's just pretty bad, if that makes sense.
And then guess what? And then when you get down and the crowd starts,
you have no chance.
Game, you're not prepared exactly to come back. And you know what it is? You got to have a player that, like, when the shot clock gets under 5, you got to have a point guard or you got to have a creator that could get you a shot or that could get into the paint. You got to have that type of elite level ball handler at a small school like that.
And last year, just going back to Virginia had it in a Ty Jerome. Could always kind of get to the paint, or if he wasn't there, he was an elite shot maker from three. He'd pull up for those deep threes, and obviously guy off the screens and stuff like that. But you're right, under 10 seconds, when offense isn't there, you need that creator, and they had it.
Yeah, and that's why Auburn was good, too, because you had Harper, and who was the other guy who could hit shots? Who was the other shooting guard?
Harper, Bruce Brown, or whatever his name is, the kid Brown.
Exactly.
And then the guy who's sitting out this year with the Magic, but was the ACL guy, Chucky White, whatever the heck his name was.
Zuma,
yeah, Chuma. Yeah, he had good players, but, the thing about, even you go back to Auburn, they masked some of their flaws by playing so fast. They had a couple of guys like that where if it did, they need the last shot. But then you had guys like Malik Dunbar on the wing who I coached against, who is not that talented, but, is a really good athlete. Some of those guys, playing fast, it masks a lot of flaws with guys at high levels. I can promise you that. Guys can have nowhere become a 6, 7, 8 point a game scorer just based on run outs, and playing fast will lead to very many defensive mistakes because the pictures in front of you become a lot faster and it speeds up real quick. Anything. Do
you think that a lot of the small level schools that have some success, like a VCU, so like Shaka goes to Texas or Andy Einfeld goes from Florida Gulf Coast to USC, that they're kind of forced to adapt and play a little bit slower? Or that it's just very hard for these fast coaches to kind of adapt when they hit the big conferences?
Well, yeah, I would agree. You become forced to play a little bit slower in the sense of the ball handling becomes a lot better. I mean, why do you not see teams press in the NBA, really? Because the ball handling is just too damn good in the NBA to really press it, I mean, maybe once in a while you could throw it in there, but I mean, you'll get torn apart if you sat in a press, or if you pick up full court constantly. You just get torn apart. And, in major college basketball, it's hard to press throughout a whole game because, once again, these guys are one step from the NBA.
Yeah.
It becomes hard. The bigs are a little bit bigger and more athletic, so there's easier targets to break presses when guys step up. It is what it is. I mean, I think Andy Einfeld has done a much better job than Shaka Smart adjusting, to be quite honest. It's just,
Yeah.
Texas should be a top 10 school in the nation. They're just not.
And the recruiting is elite. The recruiting could be elite.
The recruiting is elite when you actually start looking at the classes,
Right. I want to switch gears. We're going to talk a little bit more about NBA, and then we're going to talk about the trade deadline. I really think last night watching Gordon Hayward, I think that he is the single most important player to the Boston Celtics. And last night he just looks like Utah Gordon Hayward. He looks as fast as he's ever been. He's out there making plays as a playmaker. And when Gordon Hayward is playing that well, when he's really a difference maker, when he's playing like an all-star, it really breaks things open for guys like Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum last night had an unbelievable game. I think that Boston looks like a team. I know they just beat Milwaukee. They look like a team that could be there at the end in the conference finals, maybe an NBA finals team. I mean, if they get like a Steven Adams, if they get maybe one more defensive center somewhere from a crappy team, maybe a Tristan Thompson, they could be the team at the end that can really win a championship.
I think what Boston needs is they obviously they need a defensive center. They need to build a real identity of who, and this will happen over 82 games. You know, who is that guy? It's like everyone wants to be like everybody's friend in Boston. It seems like, you know, like no one has an identified role as a closer. It's kind of by committee. And who is it going to be? Is it going to be Tatum? Is it going to be Kemba Walker? We'll find out. I thought last night, you know, you watch the Bucks team get very, very cold from the field. I wasn't as convinced by it as maybe you were. You know, it's like kind of a tale of two halves with the Bucks. And you know, Boston, though, they're tough. They're a very tough team. I have a hard time seeing them being better than the Sixers and ultimately better than the Bucks in a long run.
So you think that the Sixers are that good? Because I think the Sixers can be stopped defensively. I think Embiid is such a wild card that some games he's really going to struggle. I think Ben Simmons is going to struggle. They have so many guys that are hot and cold that I just don't think their offense is that good. Like, I think Boston could actually beat Philly in a 7-game series.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, like, argue like, you know, like Stephen A. Smith or Max Kellerman, but I mean, I disagree that I think Philadelphia is just a much better team. I think up front is where you're really going to see you kind of get exposed. And honestly, the thing that Boston kind of scares me, it's the ball handling. You know, I think they're a little bit loose at times. You know, you play like this 4-guard thing, you know, I think their actions, once again, it's kind of like Kemba Walker is not Kyrie Irving in the sense of the ability to create his own shot, but that might not necessarily matter much. But when, you know, push comes to shove, can they get the buckets when push comes to shove and the defensive intensity is ramped up in the playoffs? I don't know that they have that guy right now. And that's kind of, I think the team's a little bit flawed.
I think they actually have 3 guys. I disagree. I think they have 3 guys. I think you have Kemba, Jason Tatum, and Hayward that can all get buckets when the shot clock winds down.
And none of them have actually proven. Not one of those guys has proven that in a NBA playoff setting. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
When it actually matters,
hasn't gotten that opportunity to. But you see, and now you're seeing with the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, you heard all the reports of Kyrie Irving and all the dysfunction that is already happened in Brooklyn. They lose again to an Indiana team. I'm just telling you, I think it could be like the Nationals and Bryce Harper. I think it could be that kind of year where Kemba leaves and Boston's just unlocked. I mean, the chemistry is so much better. Gordon Hayward is just so motivated. He's playing great. Jaylen Brown is taken care of. This Boston team, I just really think that they might be the 1 seed. They're just that impressive to me so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I don't see them getting that many wins, but you know, it's certainly possible. I mean, as I said, I go back
to a different stance other than Sixers and Bucks.
Yeah. No. Most people are putting the Celtics in front of the Bucks, so the Celtics are basically the Celtics and Sixers. You know, have been all the picks, but. You know, I think the team that still can be the 1 seed out of the East also is the Toronto Raptors. I mean, I know they don't have Kawhi, but I think people kind of make too much of the Kawhi loss, especially as far as the regular season. What people forget last year is without Kawhi in the regular season, they were 18-4. Like, the Raptors are just a very, very good team. They're solid. There's no necessarily glaring weakness, and it's going to be a lot like the Denver Nuggets, where I think they could put up a very, very impressive regular season record. I don't think that they have the closers to necessarily do it in the playoffs, but I wouldn't count them out as far as potential one seed if everyone were to stay healthy. I mean, if someone gets hurt on that team, all bets are off. But I think the team is a lot better than people have given them credit for.
Yeah, and you think that Siakam's potential is just, through the roof.
I don't even think it's potential at this point. I think it's being proven on the court right now. I wouldn't call it potential because I think he's already reaching it, Right. I think potential is like the word of something, like he could be. I think he already is it. And you can call it a small sample size, all that good stuff, but I mean, he looks all the part of it too, right now.
Right. So,
go ahead. And Van Vliet is taking and the other thing we got to remember is Van Vliet has taken a major step forward, I think, from, I would say basically the NBA since the NBA Finals started until this point, he's made take a big step forward in his game and a little bit of consistency. He could definitely be the answer for Kyle Lowry long term there. Yeah, I don't think that they're going to need to go out and get another point guard because I think he is that guy.
Yeah, and it's a great story, and I'm trying to kind of think of who Freddie, would be like historically. I mean, he's a great shooter.
Reminds me of a poor man's Darren Williams, kind of same body type. A little bit better shooter, but there's a lot of similarities. Gritty competitors.
Yeah, I love Van Vliet. I think Van Vliet too he's kind of a secondary ball handler. And I guess like Darren Williams played on that Illinois team where he had, where he was kind of like a shooting guard. That's really not a terrible comparison. A lot of people are going to say like DJ Augustine, but I think he's better than these types of players. And his range,
I think he's better than DJ Augustine. DJ Augustine needs the ball in his hands a lot. If you really watch him and break him down, DJ Augustine, the ball sticks to his hands. He does a lot of great things. But I don't actually think that they're the same type of a guy. They just look a lot alike.
He can play off the ball. He can hit some threes. He's just a great passer. And defensively, he's actually really good. He's smart. He gets the most out of his ability.
Yeah, and let's put it this way: I think and when we say gets the most out of his ability, I think he's a really damn good player. When we say like a guy gets the most out of his ability, it's not like one of those. Well, he's kind of overachieving. I think the guy's just a damn good player. All in all.
Yeah, well, his basketball IQ is also just like off the charts, and he's athletic enough to do this, and I mean, because he's not that tall, and like he doesn't rise above the rim, so that's why I kind of say that point about Freddie Van Vliet.
Yeah, I can agree with you, and I appreciate it. I don't mean like appreciate it as in disagree. Like I honestly completely agree.
Let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline here for maybe 10 more minutes. We're here with Davey Horns, and then we're going to get into the slates of college, maybe NFL games, possibly tomorrow. It's fun checking in for this midweek podcast. Leonard Williams. I mean, what are your kind of expectations with Leonard? Are you really excited to see him here? Are you very worried about overpaying the guy? Or do you think that the Jets got a great haul from the Giants? I mean, how would you assess the trade of Leonard Williams?
I think as a Giants fan, I've seen a lot. Basically, I've seen this as an unpopular move. I'm not necessarily 100% in love with the move, but this being said, I think he's a guy that Gettleman clearly was going to target in free agency. So if giving up a third-round pick, which will be a higher third, so, it's going to be closer to that second range, It's a thing. I think that the Jets did very well for themselves here. That being said, if the Giants were always going to get Leonard Williams, which all indications are that Kettleman loves the guy. You know what? I'd rather get him in the facility, get a good look at him for 8 games. I'm not talking about us as fans. I'm talking about, do you as an organization feel comfortable enough to give this guy money long term, and are there any red flags? So personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but if we were going to go out and give this guy $15 million anyway, and then guess what? I'd rather it be now than later.
And you know what? Our turnover margin per game, this usually marks a terrible team. We're 28th in turnover margin. We're losing the turnover margin by an average of 1.1 a game. We're in the negative category. And the Giants, they only average like 1.7 takeaways a game, and usually those are lazy interceptions, or we're usually playing against some pretty terrible quarterbacks. And those numbers are inflated because of the Washington game. So there just isn't any pressure on the quarterback. There's no sacks. And I want to see James Betcher be more aggressive. I want to see more all-out blitzes, because we're already giving up big plays by rushing 4 anyway. So what do we have to lose but maybe sending some pressures? I want some quarterback knockdowns, and I want Dak Prescott to be uncomfortable Monday night.
I totally agree. I mean, it's one of these things. It's like, I'm not in love with the move, but at the same time, it's like, hopefully we get the best out of Leonard Williams. I'm not poo-pooing it. It's just a guy who's been inconsistent. But at the same time, it's like, maybe he figures it out with us. I mean, it kind of feels like the old syndrome, and this goes into every sport. It's like the old first-round pick syndrome. These guys get high first-round picks no matter what, get all the chances in the world, because they're labeled like they're high-talent guys. And maybe this is like the one that works out for us,
Yeah, hopefully it's the one example, but usually you are what you are.
I'm not poo-pooing you yet.
Yeah, it's just that with Gettleman, I mean, the moves like the Ogletree move, you heard Ogletree's not that great. And then the Nate Solder move, he leaves New England. You pay him a bunch of money, and he's not great in pass protect. You have Will Hernandez, who's highly touted. And maybe it comes down to, the offensive line coach and things that are hard to kind of see. But for the New York Giants, I mean, there isn't one guy that's stepping in and really being a consistent great player week in and week out for this team. Lorenzo Carter, he's the ultimate example of potential. We always expect Lorenzo Carter to make that turn and to really contribute. I guess this year the best defensive player probably Marcus Golden has been like above expectations. Maybe Dalvin Tomlinson in spots. Connolly was better. I don't know. Who has really performed above expectations on this defense?
I don't know who's performed necessarily above. Connolly was good. Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, their best player defensively this year has been, without doubt, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, it just is what it is. He grades out on the Pro Football Focus as the highest player, and you can kind of see it week in, week out. He pressures the pocket, even if it's not, necessarily with him into the backfield. I mean, the guy wreaks havoc, So, B.J. Hill is inconsistent. He gets a high grade, but, you'll have like one good game, one bad, Right. I mean, Tomlinson's been a plus. I thought Connolly was a plus, but now he's hurt. I mean, Marcus Golden seems to be a lot like Bruce Irving. It's all in the pass rush or nothing. And he hasn't been getting a ton of pass rush lately. So,
yeah.
It's just kind of depressing watching the defense, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's talk about this last topic, and this is Jamal Adams, and we talked about this on the phone. I mean, if you're the New York Jets, and you know how emotional Jamal Adams is, if you're a GM, do you pretty much would you not even talk to a player about if he's getting traded or not, and if the deal's so good, you just accept the trade and send him on his way without any communication? And you tell Dallas, if you leak it, we're not doing the deal. I mean, how do you handle that?
I'll be honest with you. We talked the other day on the phone. I am utterly shocked on how professional Jamal Adams acted the other day. I mean, the Jets literally took calls, nothing else, on Jamal Adams, and Jamal Adams to come out and say, well, the Rams don't take calls on Aaron Darnold, or the Patriots don't take calls on Tom Brady. For him to compare himself publicly to those guys, I mean, Jamal Adams is a very good player. He ain't those guys. He's not Aaron Donald. He does not have that kind of effect on the Jets defense. He's not the best safety in all of football like that. You know, I mean, the guy's a very good player, but I thought he just handled like a professional, like 99.5% of the players in professional sports do. Obviously, he's a baby. I don't necessarily. I think also this is all a ploy by Jamal Adams that he doesn't necessarily want to be there, and let's get the let's make the Jets the bad guys now instead of me being the bad guy. I can kind of ride this into the off season, and now maybe that's the move he's going with. I was kind of shocked, and you know what? It is what it is. I mean, the guy acted like a baby, and I can't blame the Jets, and there is no news that's not going to get leaked in today's society.
The Jets were so nice that they asked Jamal Adams, like, do you want to end up being traded? And really, I think Adams is getting caught in a lie here, because Adams, you heard even Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark's the guy who works at ESPN, and say what you want if you're a Ryan Clark fan, but he's an LSU guy, so he knows Jamal Adams, and he said that Jamal Adams wanted to go back to Dallas. Then Jamal Adams tried to save face and say, I never wanted to go to Dallas anyway. So Jamal Adams, like, the thing about him is that he's a fan favorite. He's a master at using social media. I think that his heart a lot of times is in the right place. I think he is a terrific leader. But in this circumstance, he just was coming across very two-faced and a little ridiculous at times. I agree with you. It's tough to put up with such a polarizing guy like that.
I think you put it 100% correct. You're caught in a lie there, because there is no way that everyone is saying that he wants out, and guys who you would think would be close to him, unless every reporter in the world is making something up, or every reporter is taking based on one report and saying they're getting the same report. But, for Jamal Adams to act like, the Jets aren't allowed to take phone calls on you. I mean, shoot, if someone offered the Rams 5 first-round picks, which wouldn't happen for Aaron Donald, the Rams would have to seriously consider it, I mean, not that they...
untouchable. You need to teach. You were teaching me. You gave me a lecture about pro sports, but you need to probably give one to Jamal Adams.
Yeah, I mean, you stay professional. No player's untouchable, and it's like you go back to the Paul George trade last year. People will say, "Well, Paul George forced the trade." Yeah, he did, but then again, everyone's like, "Well, the Thunder just got rid of him." Well, the Thunder got more for Paul George than anyone could ever imagine getting for anybody. You got 5 first-round picks plus, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. But what did it prove is that the Thunder weren't really about giving him up, but no player's untouchable. Eventually, there's a price that can't be, you can't turn it down. It'll be the same thing eventually. What?
Here's the thing that makes it a little bit tougher, though, in sports, is that I think that, last year with Amari Cooper, like, getting blindsided, like, you don't want to be the organization. Like, you have to be a free agent destination. And you don't just want to treat legends or franchise centerpieces like complete crap and just send them on their merry way. I know that the Patriots kind of do that. But at times, like, I do think it is important to treat guys that are stars or that have bought into the organization with the utmost class and respect. Like, for example, the Arizona Cardinals are not going to want to trade Fitzgerald or a Jason Witten or an Eli Manning. So I do think that at times it is great to, I don't know, I feel like at times you do want to value your stars, though, and take care of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I'll put it this way: like, Amari Cooper never held the type of clout that some of these guys had. What's his name? Jamal Adams.
Like, you don't want players walking on eggshells. Is my point, maybe. You don't want players doing.
It's a business. It's the business. I read about Billy Bean all the time, and Billy Bean, if you know anything about him, I'll give a little lecture. He'll never ever talk to a player ever. You want to know why? So when he has to make that hard decision, it's not hard for him. He's got no personal relationship with them. And you can say what you want. Some people have different ways of going about it. I don't necessarily disagree with him.
It's kind of the Gettleman school, too.
Yeah.
And then you see, like, Steve Smith and these guys come out, and it's very easy to pile on a GM. It really is.
Well, it's a hard job. I really think so,
Absolutely. Dave, are you excited about tonight's game before we go? Little Niners and Cardinals. I can't wait to see how Kyler can go at this defense. It's going to be quite a challenge for him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an extreme challenge for him because I don't think David Johnson's going to play. If he does, it's going to be limited. The other running back is hurt. You're bringing Kenyon Drake as your running back. It's going to become very one-dimensional. And, this 49ers team, if you become one-dimensional, it's a hard team to beat. It really will be. They'll sit back, they'll pin their ears. I think this is a bad matchup for the Cardinals all in general. I would expect the 49ers to win big, but that being said, Thursday Night Football, it's the biggest crapshoot when it comes to betting or something like that. You really can't predict it. It's just, you don't know if guys are fully healthy. That, is what it is. I don't like Thursday night NFL football. I know it's great for the fans.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers big. And
yeah.
Bonus nugget. West take Baylor tonight.
Baylor
big.
Oh, I can't wait. A little Pat McAfee action calling the game. All righty, Dave.
You got Baylor. Baylor got killed by West Virginia last year. Matt Rule made a comment that they didn't forget about it from last year, and this is a bad West Virginia team. I would expect them to run up the score like crazy.
In Waco. It's going to be fun.
In Waco.
Yep. All righty, Dave. Thanks so much, man. Had a lot of fun.
We will talk tomorrow.
Yep, let's do it. All right.